What's up, you guys? I'm so happy to be back here to talk to you guys again. If you can tell from my relaxed appearance, guys, I am still on a chill rotation right now. I say chill because it's not inpatient, it's not overnight, it's not none of the crazy running around in the ICU, somebody's actively dying kind of situation, you know. I'm currently in anesthesia rotation. Go there in the morning, do some intubations, put some central lines, do some arterial lines, so do some fun stuff and participate, just kind of watch the surgery, folks, and not be a part of the surgery just because I'm in the anesthesia section of things. So it's really nice. And most times their schedule, they kind of start pretty early. So I'm there probably around 6 o'clock in the morning and get our stuff going. A lot of the surgery cases usually start pretty early. So around noon, 1, 2-ish o'clock, almost that, we're almost done. And then a lot of times I have clinic in the afternoon, and they're usually just half days, like 12 to 5, maybe 2 or 3 days a week. And because of that, guys, I'm trying to see how many of your requested videos that I can get out the way. What I'm going to talk about today, guys, is about finances. So basically financing medical school education. A lot of people have asked me, as an IMG, how did you pay for medical school? Even get the money to pay for medical school, especially knowing that there are only a handful of medical schools internationally that will allow you to get some sort of like financial aid in order to help you with tuition. So that being said, let's say you watched the previous video that I put out there about going through the whole steps of applying to medical school, getting your prerequisites and all that stuff, and you've gotten to that point where you accepted. And let's say you're going to be an IMG, and now you're trying to figure out, how am I going to pay for this? Guys, let's face it. A lot of people admire doctors, just, they think their job is glamorous and they're rich and stuff, I hate to break it to y'all, especially those that are watching that are not doctors. Listen, I hate to break it to you guys. Doctors are not rich folks. They are not millionaires by a long shot, But guess what? I mean, they do well. I believe they get paid more for the work they do, even though I personally think doing the work and what we do, I think they could do better. But anyway, listen, guys. Part of the reason why a lot of doctors are not millionaires or very rich people are because they spend half their lifetime trying to pay back all the loans that they got just to get medical education. Average cost of medical education is about $100,000. Listen to that. A whopping $100,000 to $400,000. I'm not even exaggerating, because majority of my colleagues here, that's about what they have, for about $300,000 to $400,000 in student loans just from medical school alone. And we're not even factoring in undergrad or what you had to pay to get your prerequisite classes or whatnot. So being a doctor ain't cheap, baby, right? So let's talk about the different avenues that you can look at when it comes to trying to secure the finances that you need for medical school. So the first one, which is a very easy one, you go to your personal savings, right? Or your family savings, or whatever you guys have, how much money you have in there, what's in that little bank account, what's in that little purse. You're probably a nurse, probably a nurse practitioner, you probably had another career, because most times a lot of folks that are going their IMGs, majority of them, a good bit of IMGs are like second career folks. I'll probably say I'm a third career medical student. I'm a third career person here, because first I was a nurse, right? I was a nurse practitioner, and then now being a doctor. So third career. A lot of people probably have more than I do, right? So having worked all these years, there's got to be some sort of savings. Hopefully, I mean, these days it's so hard to save anything, just because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's so hard to save anything in the first place. But let's just say you got a good big change in your savings. Well, that's a place to start. You look at that, you see what you have in there, and see how much you can pull from your savings. Of course, you don't want to pull everything now and starve your family and not have enough to keep the lights on in the house and stuff like that, right? Just put on your bookkeeper hat on, get your calculator and punch, how much money we need for this and that just sort all of that out. Now, once you've done that, you see how much you can actually pull out and put towards medical school. Now, let's say you've done that and you still don't have enough. Then I would imagine if you've been accepted to medical school by now, you know what the total tuition cost will be, right? Because that's the ballpark number that you're working with. And the next thing you go to is a loan. So fortunately though, some of the medical schools out there, and I will speak for even the IMGs as well, so Caribbean medical schools, they also have options for scholarships, but don't expect too much on that. They will offer you scholarships. A lot of times it's based off of your undergraduate GPA, and this is like scholarship based on like higher performing students that are coming in. And sometimes that could be like maybe $7,000 off your entire tuition, something like that. Just is a drop in the bucket, right? Because it doesn't really do much for you at that point. So they'll need a whole lot of financial assistance. So of course you check with the school, what grants, what scholarships, do they have anything available? It's always important to ask that. I know that a lot of the international medical schools do not offer like Title IV US financial aid, but most times they have their own internal aids that they provide. And like I said before, some will go based on income, some will go based on like your performance in undergrad or what GPA that you're coming in. So be sure to exhaust that option as well. So ask about that, the grants, the scholarship, whatever is available, anything that you're eligible for, at least you get that up front, right? After you've done that, believe me, based on the cost of medical school, you will still have a lot that you need to cover, right? So the other option now is we start looking at loans. Well, when it comes to loans, who's going to give you a loan when you're a medical student? They don't even know, especially when it comes to international medical students. A lot of them are thinking, I don't even know if this one's going to finish medical school. I don't even know if you stand a chance of getting a residency in the first place, right? So that's also another obstacle when it comes to trying to get the money to go to school in the first place. Majority of these places, now if you're a US medical grad, or let's say you're US MD or whatnot, they're like, oh, okay, we know for sure, like you definitely make it to the end of this thing. But when you're not, say you're an international medical student, yeah, they do not have that much faith in you. So, but there are still options available, the private loans and the personal loans as well. It's always good to see in your family, is there anyone that is like, okay, has the money to loan to you and stuff, you know, out of good faith, and hopefully they trust you enough to pay them back when the time is right. But let's face it, guys, not a lot of us have those rich uncles, rich aunts, rich siblings in the house or in the family that are willing to loan us that kind of money. So oftentimes you will end up looking elsewhere to try to get that money. So there is also another option that I forgot to mention. So when it comes to borrowing to pay for medical school, international medical schools, some of them have like loan companies that they already work with. And I remember from my school, Avalon University, Avalon already had a company that they work with. That loan company actually wanted the students to be in their third year. So once you got into like clinical years, then they were willing to take care of your education. They would mainly like cover your tuition and then just kind of have you pay on a monthly basis, like maybe I think it was like $200-300 for the students that took advantage of it. So $200 to $300, that's what they were paying. But there were like required prerequisites for that though. They wanted you to have completed the first 2 years of medical school, and then also to have passed the USMLE step 1, and then also they got into clinical rotation. And I think the idea behind that is they know now you've gone through the first 2 years of medical school, which in my opinion is actually the hardest part of medical school. So once you get through those 2 years of didactics, you know, just basically basic science kind of courses and not clinical stuff, and you pass the USMLE, then well, guess what? You're halfway through the process. So they're more willing to consider you for a loan, because now they're thinking, okay, this person has a better shot at going through this process and hopefully landing a residency and eventually being a doctor, and will be able to pay us back. And at the end of the day, of course, that's what the banks are looking at, to see who will really pay us back in the end. Organizations out there as well, they're actually a little more willing to loan to medical students as well. Like I said, you have a better chance of getting the loans if you've passed USMLE step 1 and then you've gotten into the clinical years. And there are also other organizations as well that actually loan to like healthcare providers, like if you're a nurse or nurse practitioner. But for them, no, the biggest thing was your credit score. They needed to see that you had a great credit score. If you had an okay credit score, I guess they would kind of play it by ear or whatnot, but they always wanted you to have like a cosigner. I was lucky enough when I was applying for the loan, I did have excellent credit at this time, so I didn't need a cosigner, and then that helped me out a great deal. But of course, the whole process, initially, I went through my savings, of course. I kept working still. I was a nurse practitioner, you guys already know that. But it was just mainly a PRN job. And I will be honest, it wasn't even enough to cover much as far as medical school expenses and all that. So the other thing, of course, like other investments that I had also, there was also another thing to look into. Listen, and I say other investments, you know, you kind of go tap into other investments that you have to fund medical education. And it all comes down. Now, a lot of people will kind of wink their eyebrow at the thought of that. Like, man, I'm going to dip my hand into my 401k just so I can pay for medical education. Well, this is how I saw it. It was my 401k, an investment into my future, right? So my medical education was also an investment into my future. So at some point, I had to borrow from my personal 401k to assist in funding my medical education. So these are options. I need you to remember this is a sacrifice. You were taking a chance at yourself to better you. No greater sense of accomplishment than that when you get to the end and realize that I took a chance at myself and I succeeded. I took a chance at myself and I made it. And all of these folks that I owe, whatever it is that I owe them, just borrowing this money to go to medical school, you find out you'll be able to pay it back. As an IMG, if you stop paying, they stop scheduling you for rotation. It's as easy as that. And you become one of that medical student as like you sit in medical school, and rather than going through school for 4 years, you end up going 5-6 years because of the funding. You don't want that to be you. So that's that, guys. Also, the one last thing I was gonna say before I close up is if you wanna keep working while you're in medical school, just keep in mind though, it gets harder when it's time to study for these exams. And just remember, as an IMG, they're looking at these scores. I always like to tell folks that our scores, those 3-digit scores, should not be what defines us as an applicant, but also your grades are part of it. Your entire package as an applicant is important. So if you spend all of your time just working and not spending enough time to study and better yourself as a medical student when it comes to residency application, then it would have been a whole wasted effort. It would have been a whole wasted resources, and you don't want that to be you. PRN work, I kept working PRN initially, and then towards the end, my second, third year, and then up till now, of course, we have to give it all up, you know, just because I like to think as a medical student, you can't serve 2 masters, man. You're gonna have to focus on one if you want to do well on it. So this is all the time we have for the Money Talk today. Until next time, you guys, please feel free, send me your messages, your emails, and don't forget my emails in the introduction page on YouTube. And of course, you can reach out to me on Facebook. You can message me on my page or Instagram. Wherever it is you have access to me, you do that. And you know me, I will respond to you guys. Everyone that's emailed me, I believe I'm pretty caught up right now. I apologize for the delay in getting back to you guys, but I believe I'm pretty caught up in responding to everybody's messages and emails and stuff. So guys, until next time, I wanted to just take a second and appreciate you guys. Also, it's been a year, about a year that I started this channel. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart. Until next time, guys, it's Dr. G. Y'all take care. Bye.